So I can't unmute Mike, but there you go. Now you're unmuted. I think you have to unmute it. Hey, so that was a great intro.
Hey, man, it's just the internet. It's not real life, right?
All right. Well, it's
greetings, everyone. Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is Elliot Christopherson, and I am with Ellen Bondar, the creator of the channel. And we're going to do another 30-minute session today on another interesting topic within Christianity. So stick with us. Maybe you'll learn something, but maybe you won't, especially if you're a Christian.
Well, we could definitely tell them something that they'll learn. You and I are both postal workers. You work as a clerk, and I work as a carrier. Now, they may have known that, but did they know that I am a male escort?
They know now. Your fan mail is going to change a little bit now.
My fan mail is going to change a little bit. Anyway, so of course, maybe they didn't appreciate that. That is one possible. That's one possibility. We might have been wrong. Is that a good segue?
We might be wrong. Yeah,
we might be wrong.
And that is true. We might be wrong about every single thing that we have ever talked about on this channel, or written in our books, or argued with Christians. We could be totally wrong. I would like to see that demonstrated so that I can change my mind, because I don't want to be wrong. And as soon as I find out that I'm wrong and I change my mind to the correct position, backed with evidence, arguments, and facts, then I don't have to be wrong ever again. And neither do you.
Yep. I don't like being wrong either.
It sucks. And well, it sucks even. What sucks more than being wrong is finding out that you're wrong.
Yeah. What sucks even more than that is not being willing to find out that you're wrong.
That sucks even more. But that's how people stay protected from finding out they're wrong, by never investigating it, never challenging their beliefs. So they never get to find out they're wrong, and they get to, stay exactly where they're at. Always right. It must be a beautiful thing.
So interesting thought on that. Talking about being wrong. I mean, the scientific method is all about trying to prove itself wrong all the time. That's actually the goal. So you come up with a proposition, you try to prove it wrong, and when you can't, that's how you know it's right. But most people don't try to prove their theories or views right, or their propositions right. They just believe them and don't want to be proven wrong. And I think it's a much healthier method to try to prove yourself wrong. And then you discover when you are wrong. And so you can be right.
So today, what I'm going to touch on is the probability that you are wrong about the spiritual truth conclusion that you have come to. Or actually, we're gonna test it through the probability that you are right. Like, what is the probability that you have found the right conclusion? Now, this doesn't seem like something that is subject to the scientific method, but it is in a very interesting way. So I wrote a paper, a long paper, on this exact topic, trying to find different ways to measure the possibility that you are actually right in a probability or a percent. And I came up with about 4 different ways to measure it, and I used the probability calculator online, and I entered in the number of times, for the first method, the number of times that you would have to make a decision. So let's say you, as a Christian, who are at a very specific, let's say, so you're in a world of belief. Let's take a globe and let's write every religion and every conclusion of belief in a geographical context. So where you are as a Christian on one side of that globe, you're at a specific address, like a house address with numbers on it. That is your final conclusion about what God's message is for you, and that you know in your heart this is the correct conclusion. And then as you branch out in the neighborhood and the city and the county, like, your beliefs get more diverse and more further away from your belief. So you might find that your denomination is the same zip code, and your state is the same, I don't know, Protestant belief, more generic, and maybe your country is like the generic form of Christianity. But as you get further and further away, on the other side of the world would be like Eastern mysticism. It's got nothing in common with Christianity. So in that world of belief, at your final conclusion, if you were to decide, I want to determine how I could get back to this if I started over as an atheist who has no belief in a spiritual truth, what path would I have to follow back all the way back? How many different decision points and different questions would I have to answer on that belief map? How many crossroads would I go down? So, for example, the first proposition that you might have to address is the supernatural real? It's a very generic claim. Is it real? Yes or no? And then after you determine that the supernatural is real, your next question will be, well, what form does it take? Is it a god, or is it some kind of force, or is the supernatural just in everything? So every time you make a decision on your roadmap back to where you started, you would have to calculate the probability that you have chosen the correct path back. So like one crossroads would be about a middle of the way through, which form or which religion of the Abrahamic God. So you have three options. You have Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. So your chances of being correct, just based on the raw probabilities on that decision point, would be 33%. And then eventually you would come to a point where you would need to pick a denomination within Christianity or within Protestantism. And so you'd have to list all the major denominations, like what's your probability you've got the right one. Now, this is before you add in any arguments or any evidence for anything. This is just the raw probabilities of how far do I have to travel? How many decisions do I have to make? Just on dumb luck, how right would I have to get without any kind of consideration or study or logic or evidence or arguments for or against these different decision points. And what I found entering this all into a probability calculator is that your chances of being right in the raw probabilities is about 0.005%. This is what you are up against as a Protestant Christian in a specific denomination. Going from zero, which is an atheist, all the way back home to your street address is 0.005%. Now, if you took the world's population of 7 billion people and you assumed that 1 billion of them are Christian Protestants, let's say you're part of that particular religion, you are in a major denomination within Protestantism, that would be 1 in 7, the chances that you got that right. And if you were to cut those chances in half, because I mean, every Christian would agree that just because you check off the box Protestant on a census form doesn't mean you're an actual true Christian. So I think we could probably agree that maybe half the number of people who claim to be Protestants are actually true Christians. So now you've cut those chances again. So combining that, how you became a Christian, being born into it, because very few people will move from that street address. They will move across the street, they'll move across town, but on that map of belief, they've essentially been indoctrinated by their parents. They have moved out of their house and they have moved across town. Like maybe somebody went from being a Southern Baptist to maybe converting to being a Lutheran. That's a very small move on that map. So you could essentially say you are born, with some exceptions, few though, you could say you are born at your belief. So you had a 1 in 7, maybe a 1 in 14 chance, if we cut the number of Protestants in half, you had a 1 in 14 chance of being born at the right conclusion. But that's after the 0.005% chance that Christianity is actually true and has the correct message. So when you combine the 1 in 14 and the 0.005%, your chances of being right are so small that we can't even measure them. Any thoughts?
What I was thinking about when you talked about moving away from your place of home, you're almost declaring that their percentage of you being right when you were born is incorrect, because now you've taken a step away. So
you can make this probability every which way that you do this. You can make it far worse. But
right.
Christians will come back and say, "Well, I know that I'm right because I've examined the evidence, I've examined the arguments, and I'm in the correct religion or denomination or church because I have concluded that it is the correct one." And to that, we would retort, "How did you do that? Like, you are still basically where you were when you were born. Like, what are the chances that you were born into the right religion?" And I don't think you can say this as an argument to Christians, and they're gonna react to it or respond to it in whatever way they do, but they don't take the time to actually consider what this actually means by the numbers. So we actually find a way to run these statistics and come up with numbers, or what are the actual chances that you were born at the correct conclusion. They are so small that in some cases we can't even measure them. And it also depends on what time you were born in world history. Where were you born? Are you going to measure the numbers against the population of the United States, or the population of the world, or the population of the entirety of the human race from the beginning? Like, where you happen to be on that belief map, and the odds that are against you. And I came up with 4 different ways to measure this. So there was the 0.005%. There was the 7%, which is chances of 1 out of 14, because we've taken the world's population, we take 1 billion being Protestants, and we cut that in half for true Christians, so we get 7%. Let's see, I've got 2 other ways to measure it. While I find that, you go ahead and make some comments.
Sure. So interesting that the percentage of being right when using essentially faith is what we're talking about, just based on belief without any evidence. The last episode that we did, we talked a lot about that, and somebody came on and made a comment and challenged me, you, I guess, both of us, but I've been interacting, that they said, "Oh yeah, well, so you try not to use faith in anything. What have you learned in life without faith? What has your method demonstrated to you? What have you been able to learn without faith?" And I'm like, I was having a hard time answering. I'm like, I mean, this could literally go on for an eternity. Like, what do you mean? Like 2 + 2 = 4. I learned that without faith. I mean, and I think they were trying to get at, like, what are the main things, about life you learn without faith? I was like, well, I mean, again, I guess I could go on infinitely, because I basically learn everything without faith. So I don't base it on percentages and probability. I try my best to actually follow the evidence to where it leads.
Right.
And if it's still left lingering where we just can't know, I'm not going to settle on that. I'll say, well, that's the most likely candidate at this time, but I just don't know for sure. I can't declare that I know with certainty on something that I don't know with certainty. But trying to, so it's almost like it's like the what you're arguing here is the intelligent design argument. Is there's literally a million, if not more, possibilities if we're going to grant that this universe was created by intelligent design. Even if we were to grant that, the possibilities are endless of what that designer could be. We have no idea. But the Christian leaps and says, but I know it's Yahweh. And right. I'm like, well, how do you know? It's literally a sheer guess. And this falls into your numbers here. It's all sheer guess. It's percentages, and it's like, and you've just demonstrated it was 0. What? It was like almost impossible, right? That didn't even have a number.
So yeah, so I've the 4 different ways that I've measured this, 4 different ways that you have either come to your conclusion or your way back to your conclusion. So the first one, which is from atheists to a specific denomination in a specific church within Christianity, is the possibility, the raw numbers that's correct. just based on the number of decisions you'd have to make to get back there on the roadmap, is 0.005%. The second way, it comes out to 7%. The third comes out to 1.5%, and the highest likelihood that I was able to come up with comes to 15%. So your best chances in the most charitable way possible is 15%. Are you still there, Ellen? The counter on our time is still going up, but I cannot see or hear Ellen. So I do not know if I am actually being recorded or if I'm talking to my phone right now.
Could you hear me?
I can see and hear you now.
Oh, okay. Apparently, when you mute your video, you can't hear me.
Oh, okay. So in a way, I was only talking to the viewers during that little segment there. I wondered if I was offline or not, but
no, you were. You were recording. For some reason, I'm still learning this stuff. I don't know why. Why when I've muted my that's how you do it. Now you can hear me, right?
Yeah. Now you're still there.
That's how you do it.
That's fine. Hey, I can run the show by myself.
Yeah,
I just have to look at myself.
Right.
Instead of you.
Well, you were really pretty there for a minute, on the big screen. It was,
Yeah, I thought so too. Yeah. Do this more often. Just me.
Yeah, right. Just you, and I'll just be in the background. I think that'll.
So anyhow, I was saying that the most charitable percentage that you are correct, according to my calculations, is 15%, which is still pretty bad because you're gonna flip a coin with a 15% chance of it landing on heads, and that's gonna be what gets you to heaven. Like, I mean, let's be serious. There's got to be a better way to do this. Now, I'll have Christians that'll come back at me and say, well, this applies to you as well. What are the chances that you're correct? And my response to that is, I haven't even tried to find spiritual truth. I'm still stuck here at the beginning. The first question that you have to deal with before you find your way back to a belief system or a message from God is the supernatural true? Is it real? Now, if I can't even get past the first question, because I have no way of demonstrating whether the supernatural is a real thing that actually, exists in our reality, if I can't come to a conclusion on that, I'm stuck at the starting line. My percent chance of being correct is irrelevant because I haven't even gone down the road yet. Show me the evidence and the arguments, and that's another thing. Christians will say that they have studied these topics. They have concluded the correct logical way, that they're at the right conclusion. And my response to that is, you claim you have a specific message from God and you have a process for finding this. To do that, to go down this roadmap back to your conclusion in the correct way, not just flipping coins the whole way and being 0.005% correct, percent chance that you're correct, you would have to have an infallible truth detection method, and you would have to have a way to avoid all logical fallacies in logic and avoid all cognitive biases, because cognitive biases and logical fallacies will send you to a myriad of incorrect conclusions. Like, these are computer viruses running on our brains. We have very few ways to effectively defend against these. It makes finding a truth very difficult, especially if it's a spiritual truth. We use science and scientific methods to remove logical fallacies and cognitive biases. Okay, we do not have a method like the scientific methods to find a spiritual truth. So you're out there on your own, completely subject to logical fallacies and cognitive biases, and you do not have an infallible truth detection method, essentially a compass on your roadmap that is going to take you all the way back to true north, to your correct conclusion. You do not have a compass. You are out there in the wind, flipping coins, and the way you actually got to your conclusion is you were born at it. You were indoctrinated into it as a child. Your entire system of knowing spiritual truth is so corrupted, is so broken, is so non-existent, you don't have a system, that you are almost certainly incorrect. That doesn't affect me because I haven't tried to do the same thing. I haven't gone down that same broken road.
Right.
Like, I was born at a conclusion too, and I left it, and I went all the way back to zero, and I gave up and just lived my life.
Yeah. So, so this is a good place where we can talk to people who aren't even Christians. Anybody, even those who have, say, left Christianity, that haven't gone back to zero, so to speak, and lives their life based on what they know. They still got one foot into the supernatural in some sense. I talk to people regularly, all the time, that still can't seem to understand what it means to say, well, no, we can't know for sure. What they typically mean by that is, well, we don't know, but it's probable. They base it, it's reasonable, and so they still live their life like it is, like there is a supernatural realm, rather than saying, no, you don't live your life like there's a supernatural realm until you have a reason actually to believe it. It is not reasonable to live your life as though something exists that you have not been able to demonstrate does. So this one I hear all the time is the intelligent design thing, right? I just can't seem to get away from people who keep believing this. It's like they don't believe in the God of the like Yahweh or whatever, but there's I just feel it. There has got to be a supernatural because it just feels like there is. How can I appreciate all this beauty around me in the universe and there not be some intelligent designer? That's got to be intelligently designed, right? For me to even have those emotions. And I'm like, it frustrates me because I'm like, oh, you've literally just flipped a coin, so to speak, and said, well, I'm going to choose to believe that, because you can't fathom that there is no reason for this universe to actually exist. And that's an okay conclusion.
Right.
I don't see why there has to be a reason. Maybe it's just because you can't yet come to grips with the fact that it just is like that. And so you have to have you're still holding on to some meaning in life. Because let's face it, I mean, at least as Christians, that was a major hook. Like it gave you meaning in life. Like you had something, some purpose, something to hold on to, some God that gave you, a life to live for. And so that letting go of that, that's tough. It is. It was tough for me. Like even just after I realized that there was no God there listening to my prayers, I still struggled for a long time, not having that God that I could talk to, and he would calm my spirit inside and make me feel like everything was going to be okay. I mean, who knew that I had so much self power inside of me to do that? I always thought it was some other God. Now I can do that myself, but that's hard to let go of, right? And I think that idea of having some reason behind why we do what we do, why we live, why the earth is here, why I feel what I feel, it's like you just want to hold on to that so bad that you're willing to bet on the worst hand ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't figure out how to help people like that be okay with there not being meaning, and maybe it's okay. Maybe they just want to live like that, and I mean, I guess it is what it is. But I wonder what the benefits are to living that way.
So I think that a lot of us who have left Christianity wrongly assume that there's nothing to it. It's easy to do, to just live without faith and live without any ultimate hope, meaning, and purpose. We have local hope, meaning, and purpose, but we don't have ultimate because we don't have an afterlife. A lot of us assume that life just goes on because it does. Like, I've gotten past all of the existential dread and the idea that I'm going to not exist anymore because I have to keep living. You get up in the morning, you do the things you're supposed to do, you go through your day, you work your routine. And it's no different than the day before when you believed in God and thought you had eternal life. It really is not functionally different at all. But there are a lot of people that cannot get past that I call it a no man's land of nihilism between the fantasy fiction of the past and the science fiction of the future, we as a culture, as a society, would have to drag a kicking and screaming a lot of people away from their hope, meaning, and purpose to find a better future through the faithless no man's land. And those of us who are strong enough to dump those bad ideas and leave them behind are not representative of the entire population. And I don't know how to help them. It takes a very strong person to accept your fate, that this life is all you have. And I'm not speaking in a prideful manner. It's just a fact. It's reflected in the numbers of how many people will leave a faith. A lot of people will leave one faith and they'll go to another faith because they have to have something. And I don't have anything better to offer you. I can say, well, I offer you personal freedom, autonomy. You can throw away this ridiculous idea of sin, but in the end, I cannot offer you a way out of death. So that's something that you have to decide on your own. Are you a strong enough person to accept that, or you still need that drug? And that's okay, I guess, as long as you don't use that drug to reorganize society for all of us.
Well, yeah, we talked about Christian nationalism last week, so yeah, that, or whatever we did, so that is a big issue. So one of the things that having a some supernatural being, or meta human being, or whatever that they might think it is, that is out there, that create everything, is this idea that they want something of us or from us, and it's got to be something like that that's the draw to continue to hold on to it. Because if this being actually doesn't want anything from you and doesn't give two shits about you, and has no desire for you and no purpose for your life, and you're literally in the same place as you are without that being, it's odd to me that you would feel the need to continue to have that being be a reason for everything. Because if there was such a being like that, I would imagine they would want something. They would communicate some reason for why they made this universe.
Yeah, you'd think so.
It would seem utterly useless and purposeless. And I'm going to add to that, as purposeless and meaningless as nothing creating everything, to have a being create everything that has no purpose for it.
Right.
So what's the draw, right? There's just no reason for it. Now, full exposure here, recognizing that there is no eternal consequences for my actions or decisions. You live, you die. You basically fill in the line between the end points. What your life look like between the dots is basically what you're doing. And where I've gone and where I'm at, is I no longer have that one sole purpose, living for God's glory for eternity, and everything's driving in that one direction. So it was like laid out for me. This is my purpose. It's given to me by some supernatural being. And so I have to live it to be happy. And so that was my direction, but I had to write, like, I knew exactly where I was going. As an atheist now, I know that there's no such thing as that. There's nobody dictating my life. Or, I mean, I could let somebody dictate my life, but then I'm not living my life. So quite literally, I get to choose what I want to do with my life, and nobody can change that unless they were to, capture me and imprison me or something like that. Or unless I chose to give that right over to them. But if I'm living like I am now, where I literally can do whatever I want with my life, one of the hardest things for me, probably, because I lived 40 years under that one canopy of just one drive, I knew exactly what I was doing, is now this fear sometimes that I'm only going to live once, and I'm not going to live in a way that I got to do everything that I actually wanted to do. That I'm choosing, like, there's so many different choices that I can make. Right now, I'm choosing one of them, and this is the way I'm living because I think this is the best option for me. But what if it turns out living some other way would have been the best option for me, and I would have enjoyed my life more, this one life that I had lived? When I lay on my deathbed, one thing I can promise you I'm not going to regret is leaving Jesus. I know people say that all the time. That's one of the big draws to, evangelism. Well, on your deathbed, the only thing you're going to wish is you lived for Jesus more or something like that, or that you loved more or whatever. I'm like, I don't know if that's true at all. What I'm going to regret is maybe not doing all the things that I wanted to experience in this one life that I had because I chose a different path. But it's really hard because I don't know if I chose a different path, then I'd regret this path. You know what I mean? It's like life is full of regrets to some extent. And unfortunately, I don't know that there's an easy fix to that. Short of having some dictator tell you what your life is. And then I guess that makes you feel good. I don't know.
It's worth noting before you get too far away from that, being on your deathbed, the Christians would say, like you said, that you'll be sorry or you'll regret it, or then it's almost like your deathbed is calling your bluff, and like, oh, now the chips are down, and you're gonna see you were wrong because you weren't really a true atheist. Well, I've been on my deathbed after becoming an atheist, and I tell you what. There was no doubt in my mind, and there was no backtracking, and there was no thoughts about God, and there was no apologizing or repenting. That belief was truly gone, and I was brave enough to face it without desperately trying to call upon the name of the Lord just in case there was actually an afterlife.
And how could you? I mean, once you're unconvinced to that degree that any sort of being, a supernatural being, exists, how could you even call upon something that you know full well is not there? I mean, this isn't. I mean, faith isn't something you just choose in the moment. Well, I think now I'm just going to choose to believe it. That doesn't work like that. So, I mean, you just can't. So, I mean, the question is, and I guess this is a good maybe question to end on for this show. And I'm sure there's plenty to say about it, but what do you think it is that we did that quite literally took us from full-fledged in 100,000% Christians all the way to atheism, where there's just like no attachment whatsoever? I never once, like when I crossed that line, there wasn't any, well, maybe, or what if, or maybe there's some other supernatural. Like for me, it was straight from Yahweh to nothing. Like there is no supernatural. It was an easy jump. I didn't get caught anywhere in between.
Yep.
I'm not quite sure why it was that easy. Maybe because as a Christian, I had already refuted all other possibilities except God. And once there's no God, it's like, well, clearly there's nothing else. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But like, what do you think? And why do you people get stuck in limbo there? And why did we get all the way out? What are your thoughts on that?
That is a really good question. I do not know, because for me as well, it was like a hard reset on a computer. It was either Christianity or nothing, and I immediately, the only alternative I had was atheism, was nothing. And I think what happened to me is I was rational enough. Well, at the time, I thought, well, nothing else makes sense. I already know that all these other religions are bullshit. Well, no, I didn't. I had never really studied them. What I had done is, if you're familiar with John Loftus, the ex-Christian ex-apologist who studied under William Lane Craig, I believe he used to be a pastor. He has something called the outsider's test for faith, and he says it's basically just apply the same standard you would to Christianity as you would to another religion. So you, as a Christian, have this idea of, say, Buddhists. You don't give them a second thought that their stuff is true at all. It's just obviously false. It's obviously a fiction. It's obviously a fairy tale. Like it doesn't merit any amount of your time to try to figure out if it's true. If you apply that same standard to Christianity, you treat all of them the same, you'll see that Christianity doesn't merit a second of your time either. It's obviously from an outsider's perspective, Christianity is obviously untrue. It's obviously made up. Like it doesn't like, why waste any time on it? So for me, I guess I applied that unconsciously to that outsider's test for faith to everything. But what essentially happened is, you take that my analogy of a world of belief, and atheism is still at the starting line. Essentially, losing my faith in Christianity ripped me right off of that globe, that map of religion, and put me all the way back at the starting line. And I was rational enough to realize that I can't get past the first question because I don't have a process. I don't have a system. I don't have a method. I'm
Yep.
stuck. So it's obvious. It's either the religion I was born into or it's no religion at all. Now, I guess you can make some arguments why that's irrational, and you're free to do so. I'd love to hear them.
Right. So, so I mean, we talked about faith a lot last week. But like really, like faith is the only method by which we have currently by which to believe in something supernatural. There is no other method. So I know that in Christianity, faith is a unique element to other religions in that it's what saves you and that, gives you salvation in Christ or whatever. But it's also that which allows you to see and believe the supernatural. There's no other method by which we can test it. And a lot of people like I've talked to people since being an atheist, and they have this idea with the scientific method that science is just out to disprove Christianity. Science is just out to disprove God. That's all they want to do. They just want to prove God wrong. And it's the stupidest thing I heard, because I remember being taught that too. Like, you get this in your mind, and as a Christian, that's just to go to because that's what you hear. But that's not what science is doing at all. In fact, science welcomes the possibility of the supernatural. Science is a method by which we can test things empirically. And unfortunately, we don't have any tools by which to test something that's in the supernatural, but the
I
empirical
think
method.
they would say that they do. I think it's worth mentioning that a lot of Christians will try to pretend like they can apply science to Christianity because of the first line Christian defenses, such as prophecy, answers to prayer, miracles, and like archaeology. But they will say that science does apply to these. This is our evidence. We can prove that supernatural is real by these amazing accounts of miracles, or the fact that a prophecy in the Old Testament was fulfilled in the New, or we found Noah's Ark. Like I think they try. And that's where things get interesting, is because you can actually discuss that stuff and see if it would qualify for science.
Well, what they have is supposed evidence of things that took place in the natural world that they do have, but none of those things prove that a supernatural being did any of them. Like, let's just say a miracle actually could occur. How does that prove a supernatural being did it? It just means that something went against the uniformity of nature. So there is no way by which there's no way science has even gotten them a step closer to proving that it's God. All they have is and like even prophecy. Like, let's just again hypothetically say I can prophesy and tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, and that it's a genuine prophecy, not like, you're going to order and eat dinner or something like that. Let's just say it's some genuine prophecy. Why does that require supernatural? Maybe I just happen to have tapped into energy and figured this shit out and know how to.
Or you're a time traveler.
Or I'm a time traveler. It's also a possibility. I mean, none of them are sensical, but neither is the supernatural, because we have no reason to believe any of them are true. And so you're beginning with a presupposition that the Bible is, is told in order, and that the prophets actually prophesied stuff. Most of the prophecies are silly things like, a guy came riding on a donkey. Oh my goodness, Jesus rode on a donkey. It must be the prophecy. It's right. Like ridiculous stuff like that. But a lot of it was retrofitted. And so there's no reason to actually believe any of this is even true. But to your point, yes, they believe science helps prove Christianity. But in essence, it really doesn't. It just proves the claims that Christianity are making that happen in the natural realm. Okay, but that still doesn't prove Yahweh. It proves nothing about the supernatural.
No, I totally agree. I'm just saying that they would say that, and that that gives us a topic to discuss with them that is not about faith. So it's easier to discuss something that manifests in reality that we can actually, find common ground on and look at the evidence itself.
Sure, but what ends up happening, and I know you know this because you've had plenty of conversations. Let's just say that, go back to the miracle one again. Oh well, I mean, sure, this miracle thing happened, but how can you prove that it's a supernatural being named Yahweh? Well, you just have to have faith. That's what it comes back to, because
that does, yeah.
There's nothing scientific that they can take you beyond that moment to show that it's something beyond this realm. Like, they can't do that. So that's the point by which faith takes over. So no matter how you look at it, in order to delve into the supernatural as the answer for anything you literally have to have faith. That is the only method that takes you beyond the natural realm. It's
Mhm.
just faith. And it's such a bizarre way to live. It's like to such a degree that if you were to ask anybody to live by faith in any other sphere of life, like going banking, who would do that? The banker has faith that your $200 is equal to their five. It's like silly stuff. I mean, it's faith is not used in any other form of life, any other part of life. So why is it? How did we get so stuck in thinking that we have to find something beyond this supernatural, or beyond this natural? I mean, and the way we do it is by this thing called faith. And to a lot of people, they don't even realize how much they're living by faith, because they'll say, well, yeah, but it's possible, as I was saying earlier. But then they live their life as though it's real. And that's so bizarre to me, because that's literally faith.
Right.
And I can't, like when I think about it, man, I'm just like, I'm a very reasonable guy. Like I use logic for everything. I've always had this empirical method in everything I did. As I said the other day, I just somehow was stuck in this matrix of faith, and it never occurred to me that this stuff just wasn't real. But how did we get stuck in that, man?
I think we're stuck in it because people had to come up with a way to justify their own preferences and their own feelings when they had no justification. Now everybody just doesn't. No one second guesses their own feelings about something. The way they feel about it is the gospel truth to them. It's very hard for them to change their mind when they come to a conclusion, just reacting to something. So when that thing that they're holding dear is even more important to them, like something coming out of the fear of death, like, hey, this talisman, or this whatever belief is going to save me. Like, the only way that they can market that to anybody else or pretend to justify it to even to themselves is to come up with a new way to know things, because there is no way to know if that's true. Therefore, faith is invented as this justification. They don't
Yeah.
have a choice. Like,
Yeah.
they want this to be true so badly, and there's just no way they can show it to anybody. So, like, well, it's faith. They essentially make that up.
Mm-hmm.
And it caught on amazingly well, because you're giving somebody an out. You're giving the entire world a way to know for sure the things that can't possibly be true.
Yeah.
Like,
And
man, you couldn't market something better than that. It's amazing.
I know. And not only that, like what you just said is like, I was just thinking, it's amazing that we have taken this thing called faith that literally tells us nothing about reality, but we have used it to know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And science, which we use empirical data in the natural realm, that actually does tell us things about reality, and consistently say, well, we're never that sure. We're never 100%. There's always a possibility that this could be changed or wrong. How are we taking faith and knowing for sure, and taking empirical data and saying, well, we just don't know for sure?
Because it feels good. There's no match for it
to
other
the
than an actual drug.
to the degree that, like, we're told that if we don't repent and turn and believe in Jesus, that we're gonna go to hell. And I'm just like, I like, now we're back to the beginning of the show, the percentage thing. Like, what then? Tell us, like, how do we get to that, like, minimal chance of actually knowing? I have to become convinced. Faith is also evidence of something. Like, you're convinced that it's true. It's why you have faith. I'm not
Yeah.
convinced it's true. How do I become convinced it's true? That's what I want to know. Like, and if God can't come and tell me, then I'm not responsible for that. So I just don't understand the limit. So maybe you're his mouthpiece, and you're responsible to tell me and explain it to me, but you can't seem to convince me of something supernatural, other than telling me I also just have to have faith, this thing that requires conviction. So it's a constant mess, dude. It's completely illogical, completely irrational, and I don't know what to do with all this anymore, man. It's just frustrating.
You just got to keep trying. And I mean, there are a percentage of people out there, Christians, who would be responsive, would be rational, would listen, but they haven't yet been presented with this material so that they can find their way out. And there's a large number of Christians who will never find their way out, no matter what you present them. But the best that we can do is just keep presenting the material to as many as we can, and natural selection will find the ones who are rational.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the great mystery for what we do is which ones are rational. How many does it take? How many encounters does it take? How many conversations does it take before we find one who's like, yeah, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. I better start thinking about this. And then a year later, they're no longer Christians.
Speaking of that, everybody who's listening, our invitation stays open to anybody that would be willing to come on the show. If you're a Christian, to talk with us. Elliot and I are open to you explaining us how this method of faith works in a way that's reasonable. Convince us that God exists, and we would gladly be open to it if we found out that there was some reason to believe it. I'm open to it. I don't live my life for it anymore because I don't see any reason to believe it currently. But both of us have come out of Christianity, so we're going to be familiar with a lot of the arguments. But if you have something unique to bring and can explain it, we want to hear it. And then we also want you to be willing to engage in some answers to questions as well, because we have some pushback. We would like to challenge you. And so this is your call. I mean, as Christians, your responsibility is to help people see Jesus. So come on.
Yeah.
And this is a platform, not just for Ellie and I to listen, but for you. I mean, just think about this. Like I know a lot of pastors that are in small churches and they would give anything to be able to preach to 100-person church, whatever. This is your chance. Come on. And you can broadcast to 100 people, whatever. Like, and actually I have my channel's 300 and something, whatever it is. So you can actually broadcast that many at one time. All you have to do is come and talk about Jesus and explain the reasons why he's true and answer questions that we have for you. It'll be a great discussion. We're not looking to fight. We just genuinely want to have dialogue.
I have a lot of questions for Christians that I'm genuinely interested in hearing the answers to, and not to argue with them. I genuinely just want to know how you respond to certain things. Like, what could be easier than that? You don't have to come and bring an argument and memorize a script. You don't have to bring your A game. All you have to do is just show up. I mean, what's easier than answering questions? There's no wrong answer. I honestly want to know. Like, I've got a long list of them. I got a long list of them in the back of my book. And I just want to know how more Christians than just the ones I've talked to answer these questions. Like that's it.
Sure.
It's simple.
I would love that too. Just answer some questions. It would mean the world.
Because I don't think that good answers exist. So prove me wrong.
Right. That's a great way of putting it. Please prove us both wrong. Please come on and prove us wrong that good answers to these questions do exist. So we're hoping somebody takes us up on this offer, and we'll set up a show on your schedule. Make sure that it fits your time. We'll help do that in the most, a way that most live listeners can listen to. So we just really want to extend that invitation, tell you that we're serious about it. So, so please take us up on that. Let us know. You can email me or Elliot. It's fine. Right in the comments section, or in the comments below, the info below. Our email addresses will be there. You can reach out, or you can PM me. I think you're back on now too, right? So you can PM Elliot. And in the meantime, come join us at Deconversion Nation. It's a great spot on Facebook there to come and ask questions and get answers from atheists, so that you can have your questions answered. It's a spot for Christians who are willing to have their faith challenged. If you come in there trying to convert us, you're going to get kicked out. That's not the goal. You have your church for that. You can invite us to your church to convert us. But just come on over there. It's a chance for you to get answers to your questions that you may be asking. How do atheists answer these questions? Let us answer. That's a great way to do that. So those are two major avenues for you as a Christian to come and have some really good, healthy dialogue with a couple of atheists, and more, actually, if you go to Deconversion Nation. So that's what we got going on. Grab our books. Elliot's got How to Stop Being a Christian. Really awesome book. Mine is How to Kill God the Easy Way. Also will help you understand what deconversion looks like. So do that. Both links are in the info as well. Please comment, like, subscribe, share. Helps us out. We would love to get this word out. Elliot, any final thoughts?
That'll do for now. So see you all next week.
That'll do. All right, everybody. Remember, we don't flock around.